Dun, 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 dun. Spooky. This is Kal Kat, the Kal Kat's turn. It is Halloween night. And just finished printing hot off the presses first drafts of the Robotech the Sentinel story. Robotech meets the Transformers the Sentinel story. Instead of Trans-Tech or Transformers meets Robotech, it's Robotech meets the Transformer. So all we gotta do is figure out a studio that wants to film it. Don't know yet. We have what amounts to the Trans saga again, the Trans-Tech saga, but as a Robotech thing. Used a bunch of the roughly 13 rejected stories from the Transformers Lexicons season and reworked them into a Robotech narrative because they all had similar ideas. They had similar story on a planet, monsters menacing folks, that kind of thing. Teenager and child endangerment scenarios with robots. Strange stuff like that. Character endangerment, kaijus and all sorts of things. Kennys and Kendras and things like that. We even have a Karen in there, Karen Penn, and everything. And a Jack as well. But yes, Jack Baker. So there's So this is an in brief update on that. We don't have a place to put that together yet. We just printed out the scripts to see what's possible. And part of the problem with doing another Robotech saga is that they didn't make a lot of the toys. And we had the same thing with the Carta back in the days. We were considering a Carta story later on, but yes, now that someone actually makes them online. But that's different. This is Robotech. This Carta thing would be completely new. But this is Robotech. This is from the this would have been season 2 of Lexicons. But instead of doing season 2 of Lexicons, Transformers Lexicons, we decided to take the Lexicons stories that we had and rework them as Robotech stories with bumpers on either end and fillers. No, not fillers so much as fixing plot holes in the story, because the stories did have a lot of problems, which is why they were rejected. So we filled them in. The stories that were the most problematic, the T.L. Ahrens ones, were all part of his Testament saga. About half of his Testament saga. We only used half of it. It cut out almost all of the actual violence. So suggestive space violence, that's fine. Cartoon violence, that's fine. Endangering characters, that's fine. Almost having them killed, that's fine. But not actually killing them, no. There are some deaths in the story, but they'll be surprising. They won't be surprising if you've read the Jack McKinney novels, though, because I kind of followed them in a very loose, rudimentary way all the way through the Kal Kat story. He's going to direct, and produce. If we do it, there was a couple of stories by someone named Roy and someone named Phantom, someone named Sheba, someone named Raksha. Raksha did a previous one for the Mush, and her character was included in the Mush. It's Rakshi. We kept spelling her name differently each time, and that was actually a typo. She was meant to be spelled correctly, but we spelled it wrong. And then we sort of retconned that and said, no, actually the other one was another Raksha. It was a clone. It was shaping, protocol. Space Birds. What's the Space Birds? What's the Space Birds and the Shadow Chronicles and all the stuff we already did, making sure that the Shadows Rising, Shadows You Learn, to make sure we don't rip off what we already did. This story is set in a different timeline than even the Sentinels, even though it's called a Sentinel story, 1, 2, and 3. It's set in a different timeline where the Transformers encountered the Robotechs circa 2015 during the Space Bridge story, the Endless Circle, and when they did, and also connected to 2046. But when they did, that changed everything that happened to them in the past when they go back to Bioship Mystery and meet up with young Rick Hunter in 2015, 2016, it changes the destiny of them by having Transformers interact directly with the Robotech people. Changes that timeline, which is evident in Shadow's Children to Return, in Shadow's Children, in that the Invid Queen figures that out and comes in and does her thing. So from that perspective, as if, the Battle for Upterra and all that stuff actually did happen, and Hadon 5 happened, and Hadon 4 happened, and Tyrol happened, but for them it happened differently, slightly different than what really took place. Also, there's the fact that they didn't make very many of the mecha. Now, as for Genesis Climber Masopeda mecha, they did make the Legios Robos, a motorcycle, and they did make some of the other ones. I think I've mentioned this before. And they made these masterpiece ones that were museum products. So the eBay guy that I bought one from back in the day it's a museum piece. You can't play with it. It falls apart. He glued it together, basically. It's only glued together, so it was ripped off. But it fell apart, of course, because it was glued together. Great. Yeah, don't try transforming it. With the old Legis Robo, you can transform it. But yeah, their version of Masterpiece was not good. None of those figures lasted. You can't play with them. They're not toys. The old Jetfire toys, which had issues with their QA issues, even them, they were stronger. Play with them. Lots of QA issue. So yeah, this Robotech saga story thing, Mark's Cards is in the loop as a consultant, but they're doing a Robotech Transformers Transtech again is possible. In probably 2023 is when we're going to start shooting it. So not yet. It's too soon to say, okay, we're just going to go and shoot it. Probably 2023 after January. We'll see. Maybe it'll be sooner. But for one of them anyway. We're treating them as 3 discrete movies, sort of movie events. The first one, the Tyrol one here, is Liberation's a Sentinel story. Dwayne M. Phantom and Roy. It doesn't have much TL runs at all, really. And Kal Kat did the introduction story. We wanted to, in a way, it kind of follows the alternate to, not Macross 2, but there was a version of the OVA of the Macross saga in Japan where there was an STF2 that went off and got lost, and all this other stuff happened, and there was like a different alternate version of the Sentinels. That's kind of what this is. It's an alternate version of the Sentinels. It's sped up. It's not like 30 years or whatever it was, 15 years. It's more like 6, but condensed into the story. The other star systems aren't important. The only one that they go to that we know about in the first episode is Tyrol is supposed to be Centaurus, Alpha Centauri. So Tyrol was in that star system. As for the other ones, we don't know. We hinted it was Barnard's star was where the Invid are. Barnard's star, but that may not be where they are. But in the story, I think it kind of is. So, and Hadon is somewhere in between that. So somewhere in between that. So if they send a sublight or a light speed ship, it's a little slower than a super liberal ship. Back from there, it would take them 6 years to get back to Earth. But if they had the fold system ship, it would take 6 months to get back. So that comes into it there too, which was kind of in the books. We're not copying the Jack McKinney books. Didn't want to do that. Basically rewrote these fan fiction short stories as Transformer short stories as Robotechs and included Transformers in them. The Robotechs are almost, in a sense, secondary characters to it. It should be called Transtech, but because it's more. We wanted to go more Robotech, not confuse you with Transtech. Robotech meets the Transformers. Yeah, Liberations. Tyrol, the planet Tyrol. We give the Robotech fans the Battle of Tyrol. Tell to these Robotechs and Transformers. That's awesome. So yes, the next one is the middle darker chapter. Middle darker chapter. There's always darker chapter. These are probably going to be like mini-series movies. So about 3 hours each. I think for it would be the same length as Transtech, the 3-hour ones were. So you could make 24-hour, half-hour episodes, or you could do 24-hour, or you could do basically 3 each. You could either do 12, 3 1-hour episodes in each, and that's probably what you're going for. Some of them Marvel, Disney, so yeah, 3 hours each. So each segment. Yeah, 3 discrete stories that were connected. They took the T.L. Ahrens and Stormy stories and stuck them together. Not Stormy Daniels, some other Stormy. And they're endangering Dana and this evil gang that comes in, and you get Laszlo Zan's relative and stuff. So that's kind of cool. The Regis. There is a love triangle between the Regis, the Regent, and Starsinger, and that comes up in the story. There's 3 Transformers. What happened is the Invid life force and the Master's life force got merged at some point before the story started, and imprinted itself on Transformers that happened to be there in the system, and it made the Decepticons, the Decepticon Invids, and the Autobot Sentinels, which also ties into Sentinel Prime nicely. And yeah, and Triumvirids and stuff. So they are the like master-like guys. Yeah, the premise is kind of out there, but then at its heart, it is Robotech. It still is Robotech. The love triangle of the three Autobots would probably be the Triumvirate. You have there's a guy named Optimozor, and a guy named Tallspike Zor, and a guy named Six Zor. That one. And we have the Regis and the Regent constantly going back and forth because they didn't actually get together in this version of the timeline, or they got divorced, not clear, and they're trying to get back together. And yeah, so there's drama. Max and Maria appear to be dicks in this one, but it's because it's the energy force that's on the planet that's affecting humans as well, because that would make sense, the Genesis pits and all that. And although it's interesting that the Transformers are, in this way, it's a slightly different take on the whole thing. Everybody's kind of different, so don't want to have that be cliched and have them say that's not going to work, because it kind of does. We even have a potboiler detective in here named Talomsky, from the Ahrens guy, T.L. Ahrens. Although T.L. Ahrens is a little controversial because of his Testament saga, which some of this is based on. And so we didn't want to go there. But a dumbed down version where it's not nearly as violent was fine. A PG-13 version is fine. So yeah, we have Talomsky, Potboiler Detective. Somebody in DeviantArt drew up some stuff from Testament. It's kind of cool. You can go check that out. Drew up some pictures. I don't know who it was, but I want to draw Talomsky and Jameson and the puppets and Ratchet in the background. Kind of neat. Puppets being Transformers, really. So here we have this is the third act. This is Destiny's Sentinel story. Third act is the longest, and it has, I think the second act, I think it's ascending, isn't it? So we have I think it's ascending here. 144 minutes. Looks like 153 minutes. 166 minutes. So yeah, longer. And it's structured so it would be minutes if you did it. So 144, 153, 166. And yeah, so So let's figure out how we're gonna film that. Yeah, so it would be very interesting if we were able to pull that off at some point in the future. That was my take on the scripts having been completed. Writing them was difficult during the transition stuff. We have all the equipment and everything. People watching TV constantly, interrupting the thing, and finally got it done. And now it's got it done. So now we got it done, and sets are different. Yeah, so this is an update on the Robotech thing here on Halloween night, and I'll do other things this evening. So yeah, it was fun putting it together and coming up with stuff. And when I added Robotech stuff to the already existing Transformer stuff, changed the names around. Originally it was just Optimus Prime, Megatron, and everybody doing stuff. And I thought, well, let's not have them in it at all. Let's just do a completely new characters that are being them. But the Robotech people are there. But they're the altered G.I. Joe Robotech people. They're the G.I. Joe. Because, yeah, they didn't make a lot of the Invid ships. We can't really show them because they didn't make them. They had a Exo Squad reintroduced some of them back in the day. They had a Invid Shock Trooper and Invid Officer Pod. I have those somewhere, but they've fallen apart. So we're not going to use them. They figured the ingenious idea of let's just do Transformers playing the Invid and the Masters. So, yeah, let's have this repertoire thing. Let's have Regent, kind of like Megatron, chewing scenery, and Regis chewing it even more. Made-up character of MC Kim, the Kimchi, would be all like, oh, heck yes, I'm going to do that. I want to do the whole thing. So. The Roadkill and MC Kim's chewing scenery. It would be cool if we get the first mini-series out for 2023, but it's probably not likely. We have the books, there they are. Probably not likely. The only way that would work is if we did all of the audio ahead of time, which would be really, really awkward. I mean, you could do it that way. You could like save it like that. But wow, that would be really hard to edit. Feel like we're dubbing our own stuff. It would just be weird. I don't think that would work. It has to be live. It always has to be live. We tried that one year with the Halloween special 2 years. What was it, 2 years ago? The Transformer Halloween special, where we dubbed it ahead of time, and yeah, the acting was better. Acting was far superior, but it was really hard to match up to things. Anyway, so Robotech, the Transformers, coming soon.